Hey, Father Michael here. Yesterday, I was unexpectedly homebound for the entire day because I had taken my car to the repair shop where I've gone for years the night before with a list of three things that I needed to have repaired, seemingly minor things, which turned into a fourth thing, which then became a major expenditure. But isn't that just how life goes? I had to get that particular vehicle up to snuff because that's the one that I use when the weather is crappy, and living where I live, that means basically 3/4 of the year. So, there I was stuck at home all day, and the house was basically clean because I had been smart and I did that on Saturday. So there were a few bills I had to catch up on and emails, and I finished writing my sermon for Sunday and stuff, and it was 60 degrees, which is abnormally warm for this part of the world, but it was raining and miserable, so it was just as well that I was stuck home. Anyway, at the end of the day, I had to go pick up my vehicle and pay my bill. And the young man at the garage is someone that I have known for quite a few years, since I've been going there for years. Someone with a heroin slash fentanyl problem. How do I know? Because just about 6 months ago, I noticed 2 fresh needle marks on his arm. And even though he's known me for years, he had to ask me my name, what vehicle he had been working on. He was basically nodding off, which disturbed me greatly. We're talking, young, probably mid-20s. So yesterday, when I showed up to pick up my vehicle, of course, he was there. And he looked just awful. He's always been a skinny young guy, but he's about my height and he's down to about 130 pounds. 130 pounds at the most. He looks just awful. He was friendly, as he generally is, and as he pulled my car out into the parking lot, out of the repair bay, and was going to, open the door for me so I could get in and drive home, I thought, okay, I can do something here. And so I said, wait just a minute. And I got my wallet out, reached in there and got one of my business cards out. And I said, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but I work in recovery. I'm a certified recovery specialist. And so I'm going to give you my card in case you know anyone that is struggling with addiction right now, especially heroin and fentanyl, which, is killing a lot of young people unnecessarily. And I said, I myself have 5.5 years clean time, so I know how this goes. So if you know anyone, have them hit me up. And he seemed really happy, actually, to get my card and to know this about me. His eyes seemed to light up a little bit. And so thanking me, he let me get in my vehicle and closed the door, and I drove home. Well, so I've been thinking about that encounter, thinking about drug addiction in particular. It's out of control. The fentanyl in particular is taking a lot of lives of young people. A year ago, I lost 5 people in a 4-week period. And they were all in their 20s. Some of them had young babies of their own. Heartbreaking. In a very real way. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, those things really do become brain disorders, like any other mental illness. I have said many times, I may not have had any mental illness going into my addictive behavior, but man, by the time that shit show was over, I certainly did. Like anxiety or depression or even bipolar disease, addiction can be absolutely debilitating. Body and mind are affected to the point that they eventually just do not function in healthy ways. And those three parts of the brain that are affected include, unfortunately, that prefrontal cortex, the part right here, the adult in the room, if you will, where rational, intelligent, reasonable decisions are made. And because that piece is affected, then we end up making dumb choices when we are in our addictive behavior. We go places where we should not be. We get in our car and we decide to drive. That kind of thing. So it's hard when that part of the brain is compromised to make rational, intelligent decisions. And speaking from personal experience, those of us with a deep faith in God, we are not immune from any of that. Not by any means. But we still find ourselves, as we tumble down that bottomless pit of addictive behavior, we still find ourselves challenged to maintain any kind of real spirituality. Meditation flew out the window for me during my active addiction. And it's so easy then to get on that page where we think that God, just isn't listening to us because, why else would he be doing this to us? Or maybe he's on vacation and I just need to leave a voicemail. As that healing process begins in recovery, and by the way, if you need a book, Baffled by Addiction, is a great little paperback book, maybe $9 on Amazon, Baffled by Addiction, and it explains the whole thing. It's not just a habit, it's way deeper than that. But as that healing process begins in recovery, it is not unusual for people who do believe in God to become angry with God for doing this to them, for giving them these physiological and mental changes in their brain. And I'm always saying to clients that quitting the drugs or stopping the alcohol, as hard as those things are, the real work is even harder. Stopping getting high or drinking, that's the easy part. The harder part is figuring out all of those patterns of thinking and those attitudes about life that we have to uncover and challenge and then replace with helpful, rational, spiritually nourishing beliefs and thoughts. Many people, and I was on that page myself at one point, are holding on to those resentments because, they'll say, hey, I'm only in my 20s. Are you saying I can never go out on New Year's Eve and get shit-faced like a normal person? Well, bro, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, because you're going to reactivate all of that craziness in your physical brain if you go back to using your drug of choice, or any other drug in most cases. Now, there are exceptions, but they're rare. So they have some resentment because they've got a long life ahead of them. How are they supposed to be hopeful and grateful and joyful if they can never have another night out and just get crazy with drugs or alcohol? There is no way at this point for us to undo the physical damage to the brain caused by this abuse of chemicals. We're just not there yet. So the only way forward is to evolve into accepting the idea of abstinence. Part of life, I think, is like dealing with addictive behaviors, because we're always having to deal with trying times and situations that are certainly going to find us. Of course, we don't want them. Of course, we aren't expecting them, and they hit each one of us, though. We don't get out of this life without heartache and challenge and sorrow and fear and all of those things. And it can be so easy to fall back into those behaviors like we see in the book of Job, in the Hebrew scriptures, the friends, the so-called friends of Job, who are always trying to explain those random things away. Perhaps even feeling ourselves that we are bad people. I deal with this every single day, that we're bad people, that I must be so bad that God needs me to suffer. We got to get off that page. We are all like Job, I think, wrestling with what life throws at us, those experiences and situations, and we wonder why those things are happening to us. In Job chapter 1, verse 22, the writer says, "In all of this, Job did not sin by accusing God of wrongdoing." Okay, there's some information there. God is not the source of bad things. There is no answer to the question, why is this happening to me? Why did I cross that line into addiction and other people are able to smoke weed every Friday night on pay night and they're fine? It just is what it is. It simply is what it is. There is no why. These situations simply are. And in the case of chemical addiction, it gets to the point where our free will is so compromised in this process that we're not even fully capable of making the next right move for ourselves. No one is to blame here. No one is to blame. Nobody gets up one morning and says to himself or herself, gee, I think I would like to be a hot freaking mess. I am going to start drinking a fifth of vodka for breakfast every day and see where this goes. No one does that. They get trapped in a cycle and it becomes worse. And whatever their inspiration or their reasons were for drinking in the first place or getting high in the first place, it works at first. A lot of alcoholics drink to bring down anxiety. It works short term. And then it doesn't work. And then the anxiety is out of control. And now instead of one bottle, it's 2 bottles. It's a handle. It's 2 handles, etc., etc., etc. There's no explaining at this point why addiction happens to some people and not to others. Most college students drink on college campuses, and yet 80% of those people graduate, get a life, get a career, and they're done. But that 20%, they have crossed a line somewhere, and there's no predicting it, and there's no foolproof way of avoiding it either if we're going to abuse alcohol. So addiction and other negative realities are not God's revenge, is what I'm trying to say. It is not punishment for our sins. It is not some weird sense of karmic justice imposed on us by a mean-spirited universe. Challenges are real. bad things happen. They are simply the dark nights of this life that sometimes follow on the heels of a beautifully bright, sunny day. We can't predict, oftentimes, what's going to hit us next. But in all of it, the ups and the downs, we can, if we choose, find that God is there in the midst of it. Like Job, when we encounter hard truths and difficulties, we really can discover and learn again and again that no matter what, God is. No matter what, God is beyond all time. God is the creator. And more than that, God is the sustainer, the loving sustainer of all life. So no matter what life presents to us, it's a simple verb conjugation game, a simple grammatical activity. Conjugate the verb to be, because in doing that little bit of grammar work, we come to two abiding truths. Things simply are. God simply is. And therein lies hope. Pray with me. Loving Creator God, always creating, always recreating, forever sustaining with the power of your love. We come into this moment of surrender to the truth that things simply are, and that you are. We ask your blessing today in a special way on all those who are struggling with addictive behaviors, particularly those caught up in heroin and fentanyl. Help them to find a way forward through their darkness. Help them to see a ray of light in the gloom of their addictive behaviors. And for our part, may we withhold our judgment, our scorn for those trapped in that life, and simply do our best to understand, to educate, and as opportunities present themselves, to offer healing and a way forward. We ask this in the name of your only begotten, your beloved, Jesus the Christ, the one who lives and works with you and the Spirit, our God, always and forever. Amen. See you tomorrow.